Hey everybody, welcome to Grimsforge Gaming. Today we are going to touch base on our MagicDK. I've been taking this out into mid-year mayhem, mostly doing like some small group or large group play, and this build in particular is a heavy armor MagicDK build because we are going extreme outnumbered situations in a lot of cases. However, if you stick around till after we go through the gear, I'll talk about what changes I would make to the gear composition, enchants, and everything else if you wanted to go 5 light, 2 heavy, or whatever on this build. So anyways, the purpose of this build is to kind of wade in the middle and disrupt and cause as much damage and draw as much damage as we can. And let's jump into the build. So the first thing that we are doing is we are running Grothdar, and this build, by the way, is this is not a unique creation of my own. This is something that I just wanted to share with people. If you have not tried this build on your MagicDK, I strongly recommend that you do give this a go. It's one of the strongest setups that I've ever run on a MagicDK, and I'd seen other people running it, and I'm simply here today to share it with you. But we're running Grothdar, and we're running prismatic enchants on everything, and the next set we are running is Elfbane. Elfbane's a very hot set right now, and I definitely recommend that you look at that. And by running Elfbane, if you look at it, it's got max Magicka and then 2 lines of spell damage, and then the 5-piece increase your duration of your flame damage over time abilities by 5 seconds. And so we are a very heavy damage over time with flame, and in particular your Grothdar. If you look at this, Grothdar will have a 100% uptime. So as long as you're doing damage, you could pretty much guarantee that Grothdar is going to be procced for you, and that's really nice. So Grothdar paired with Elfbane, super nice. And the next set that we are running is Overwhelming Surge. And Overwhelming Surge, I've actually run this on a Magplar build before, and while I was running it on my Spartan Magplar, I realized the underrated value in the 5-piece on this. It says when you deal damage with a class ability, you have a 33% chance to surround yourself with a torrent that deals 1341 unbuffed shock damage to enemies within 8 meters of you every 1 second for 6 seconds. 15% of the damage you deal this way is restored to you in Magicka. This effect can occur every 6 seconds. Okay? So if you look at it, this effect can occur every 6 seconds. You can almost have 100% uptime on your Overwhelming Surge, but the most important thing is it does AoE damage to every enemy within a certain radius of you, and it has a chance to apply concussed, with lightning damage, so they're going to gain minor vulnerability and take more damage, and so that's really nice. But that 15% of the damage that you're doing with this ability is returned to you in Magicka. That's very underrated, and I'll share a clip at the end of this. Earlier during mid-year mayhem, actually yesterday or the day before, we were fighting an outnumbered situation. If you look at my Magicka situation, I wasn't really having a problem sustaining in the Magicka field because of this set, and I was waiting in the middle. It was more so stamina, because everything that you can do on your MagDK is block cast capable, and so you'll burn through your stamina usually more than you'll burn through your Magicka. Good to know. And so we're running an Inferno staff, and it is Nern honed, and I need to change the enchant on that. This is a work in progress. I put this together, and just for throwing it together, I was really happy with the outcome. I'm late to the party on Elfbane, and I wish I would have got it sooner. But anyways, Grothdar, Elfbane, Overwhelming Surge. Try that on your MagicDK. It is impressive. Okay, we're running Resto staff on the back bar, and we are running Defending. I need to change the enchant on that as well. And so a couple things. My entire front bar right now, I don't need to run the Inferno staff or the Destro staff on my front bar. I can run sword and board, and maybe that will help with the stamina situation as far as burning through your stamina pool while you're block casting your offensive ability. And so that might be a thing. For now, I like having the long range poke. Sometimes there's large groups, and it's better not to jump in when you don't have an ultimate ready, right? It's better to just stay back and kind of poke at them from range, and then when your ultimate's up, okay, time to go, and we can jump in a little bit more safely. Anyways, that's why I'm running the Destro staff right now, Inferno staff, and the Resto staff, we're running that for a very particular reason, and we'll get to that when we look at the abilities. So the gear, again, Grothdar, Elfbane, and Overwhelming Surge. Awesome. It pairs super nice together. Let's look at the stats here real quick. This is all unbuffed. And so we've got 33,000 max Magicka and just under 29,000 max health. And you can see we're just all points into Magicka, no points into health as far as attributes go. Then stamina, we've got 19,000 stamina, which is really nice. I kind of like that, 19 to 20,000, because we are block casting a lot on this build. We currently have our just base max Magicka recovery is 1500. Our health recovery is 902. We are a vampire on this build, but I think it's important to note that we are only a stage 1. There's no reason for us to actually be a stage 2 or higher vampire on this. We don't need the additional regular ability cost increase, and we're not doing a whole lot of vampire abilities, so we don't care about the vampire cost reduction in abilities, and we don't need any more flame damage than that. So we actually 902 is a pretty nice health recovery area to be at, and our stamina recovery is just under 600. Our spell damage unbuffed is 2,000, and we can get this to 3,000, but I'm going to show you a couple changes that you can make that you could easily press 4,000 spell damage, or maybe a little higher than that. So our spell resistance unbuffed is 27,000, and our physical resistance is 23,000. We got 3,000 critical resistance. This is pretty nice. We are a heavy armor build, so we're not really worried about our penetration. We are basically a disruptor. We want to get in the middle and CC, draw fire, and we're not without teeth. We can actually do damage as well, even for being a heavy armor and only at, I think, buffed up 2,600 spell damage. But like I said, we push way more than that when I show you the changes. And let's look at the abilities that I'm currently running, and actually these are the abilities in the clip at the end of this that you'll see I was running too. I'm running Empowering Chains. I like this. Magicka DKs are notoriously known as being a slow class, and I really like Empowering Chains. The other morph to chains pulls people into me, and it grants them CC immunity. I don't want that chain. That's not really my purpose of this. So what I do is I pull myself to people. So if they're trying to run from me, or whatever it is, or I want to gap close into the group quickly, my ultimate's ready. This is Empowering Chains is the way I'll do it. So it's got a 5,000 damage unbuffed, and increases your light attack. It gives you Empower on your light attacks, and then grants you Major Expedition for 4 seconds. So we gain additional movement speed, which is really nice on this build. I can gap close into a group and then also outmaneuver them, hopefully, for a short while. We are running Flame Lash, and I like Flame Lash because of the way I'm currently using the build. We need to find the most angles to get heals, and so anyways, this is one of those. And basically I just need to CC somebody, and once they're CC'd, I can hit them with Flame Lash twice, and that second one's going to be a big heal for me, and it's going to do a good amount of damage. So We're running Draw Essence right now, and it's because we were swimming in Zergs earlier. This is a pretty reliable heal when you're in an outnumbered situation. I wouldn't recommend doing this, running this ability if you're just doing dueling or, 1v1, 2 or 3. Like if there's just not a lot of people, the heal on this isn't going to be worthwhile to take up the bar slot, but if you're in extreme outnumbered situations, it's nice. And also, so it does some damage initially, heals you for 111% of the damage it does initially, which could be a pretty juicy heal. And then 2.5 seconds after that, it explodes outward and does damage to everyone. And you can see that nearby enemies that are hit with this, it restores 10%. For each enemy hit, it restores 10% of the cost. And so this becomes pretty cost effective as well in extreme outnumbered situations. The other ability that I'm running, this is my immobilization or my soft CC, is Choking Talons. I like Choking Talons because it applies the minor maim, so when we are in outnumbered situations, if they do decide to target me, the minor maim's going to mean that they're going to do 15% less damage to me, hopefully 15% less damage to my teammates as well, right? And so I like that morph a lot, and then it also comes with a synergy. So if my teammates were to hit the synergy, if I'm there swimming in the middle of the Zerg with teammates, they can hit that and it'll do 9k buffed. And we'll look at all this stuff buffed up. I'm running Burning Embers. I like the dot on it. It's a pretty juicy dot. Runs for 20 seconds, and this heals you for 83% of the total damage done. So if they don't cleanse it and it just stays on them ticking away, this is going to be a pretty big heal. And so regularly what I'll do is gap close into a large group. I will hit Choking Talons on them so their damage output is less and they're CC'd near me. And then I'll hit Draw Essence. And then while that's all going off, I will, if I need a burst heal during that time frame, this will give it to me. If somebody is low and I want to burst them down, I'll hit them with this. But if nobody is low and I don't need this burst heal from this because this was enough to sustain me, I'll just make sure that I hit a couple different targets with Burning Embers so that way those heals come in kind of after the fact. And so that's a pretty nice thing. If you're running into banners and world bosses, talking from a PVE standpoint, this is a really nice heal. When we're talking PVE, you can put this on the boss and just reapply it if you need a heal. And that's nice. The ultimate that we are running is Swarming Scion, and this has been a really fun ultimate actually. Basically, it's like Bat Swarm, but it's like a cross between Bat Swarm and the Necro ult, right? So that's been fun. The cost on it is crazy high at 1314 or 314 ultimate, but I think the important thing to know about that is that kind of appeals to our battle roar passive as a DK, right? And when you look at our battle roar passives, when you cast an ultimate ability, you restore 51 health, 46 magic, and 46 stamina for each point of ultimate. Well, this ultimate, it costs a lot, and so in turn we're going to get a lot of resources back. So if you can hold out for this ultimate, I tell you what, jumping into a group and the amount of damage that you're doing and the heals that are coming from this, and if you're purpose is to draw attention, this definitely gets it done, right? You're this big towering vampire standing in the middle of everyone, and so mission accomplished, right? So this was working really well for me. You do have some flex spots here, so you don't necessarily need to run Choking Talon. We're talking open world situation right now, but if you don't want to run Choking Talon, let's say the numbers that you're running into are not, 4 or more, you might as well run Fossilize. It's probably the best CC in the game, right? Because it's both a hard CC and a soft CC. And what I mean by that is it stuns the target, and then when they break free of the stun, they're still immobilized or rooted, and they have to break free of that as well. And it just really is taxing on the stamina pool. And so Fossilize, probably the best CC in the game. If you were going to get rid of Choking Talons, I would definitely go Fossilize route. And that's more for a dueling or 1v1 type situation, and that'll really help line up your Flame Lash. Another thing too, about that, your flame lash, the payday on your flame lash comes with the second hit, right? If you're only immobilizing them, you're gonna have to be quick to get through two of these whips to get that second one off, right? But fossilize makes it a little easier because they got to break free of the stun and break free of the immobilization, and so that's important to know. So that's our front bar here, and like I said, every single ability on this bar, there's no destro abilities, destro staff abilities on this bar. You could run this with sword and board, no problem. You would just lose a long range poke, which for me has ended up being the smarter play right now on deciding when to jump into groups and stuff. Just stay back and wind up your heavy attacks on them. But a couple changes on this front bar before we go to the back bar. Like we said, run Fossilize here. You don't need to run Draw Essence here. You could actually run Engulfing Flames, which is going to be another dot. And you can see it does some upfront damage, almost 6k damage up front, and then it's got like a 13k damage tick unbuffed. And then afflicted enemies take more damage from all flame damage attacks based on your offensive stats with the maximum 10% bonus damage taken. Okay, so that's important to know. Like, this is also a conal attack, so you can see the radius is 10 meters cone in front of you, and instantaneous. And so if you wanted to add AoE damage that's gonna just keep ticking on them, this is the way to go. And you can get the damage over time to be higher on this by your CP allotment, which we'll go over, because right now I currently don't have a whole lot of points into Thaumaturge, and Thaumaturge directly increases your damage over time. The reason being is our whip is not a damage over time, this is not a damage over time, and I'm only using this for pressure on shields or the heal portion of it, right? So we're more direct damage based right now. If I decided to run with Engulfing Flames more often, that would probably be the play, is put more points into that. Anyways, we'll get to that as we come to our CP. Let's look on the back bar here. And on my back bar, I'm running Molten Armaments, and like I said, right now we're running the Destro Staff, and so if we're going to be using the Destro Staff for a long-range poke, we might as well be running Molten Armaments. It gives us our major sorcery buff for 36 seconds, which is nice, and the cost on it's fairly high, but we really don't have a problem sustaining with Magicka on this build because of overwhelming surge and the way we're playing it. And aside from that, a long range poke means we're winding up heavy attacks or medium attacks or whatever, so we're going to be getting Magicka back from that. But your own damage with your heavy attacks is increased by 50% while active, and so it gives your Destro heavy attacks a little bit more teeth. I'm still leveling rapid regen, but you can see the tooltip on it's pretty nice, and the cost is fairly low. But the important thing to know on the rapid regen is it's healing you or a nearby ally. And there's been a couple times where I've actually thrown this up when I've needed it and it's gone to someone else, and so that's somewhat annoying, but for the most part it's there for you if you need it. And I can tell you, if it does hit you with all the other healing that we have in this kit, both front and back bar, and this is on you, you've got a lot of healing coming in, so it's better to run with it and instead of without. So we are running Elusive Mist, and Elusive Mist is pretty nice. It's actually the only reason we're running Vampire on this build currently, is because it gives us major expedition, so some movement speed, and we can tank out a lot of really bad stuff. And so if we are in the middle of a Zerg and we're just getting completely locked down, and I need to exit, you know, I'll hit Elusive Mist. And I can tell you right now, we're in Greymoor, obviously, with the changes to vampires and the changes to werewolves and everything else. But Elusive Mist has been unreliable, and so I will hit it, and it will not always make the transition to the mist. And so you kind of need to, I don't know if that's a bug or what's going on with that. So the times that it works really well, and then the other times you're mad as hell at it. So anyways, use this at your own risk. We are running Cauterize, and basically it's because it's too darn good of a heal. And Cauterize in some of the higher end PvP like dueling guilds, Cauterize is one of the abilities that is bannable or not allowed. It's stricken from the abilities, and it's just because the heal is too juicy, right? And by having this on our bar, we get Major Prophecy, so it increases our spell critical, which is great. So if we're going to hang out any amount of time on our back bar, we're more likely to see crit heals from Cauterize, and we're more likely to see crit heals from our Rapid Regen, and that's great. We are running Hardening Armor, and Hardening Armor is going to give me a little shield. You could run Volatile Armor, and maybe Volatile Armor is the play. It's the other morph to this, and it does like a magic AoE damage around you whenever you ignite it. And so if I wanted to do more damage while I was in the middle of the Zerg, I would run with Volatile. However, I try to disengage and not reapply my buffs while I'm in the middle of the Zerg. That means I probably hung out a little too long. And so I'll try and disengage, line of sight, get my buffs back up, and then re-engage. That's how I do it. But if you find yourself just reapplying your buffs in the middle and standing your ground, go Volatile. I am running Ferocious Leap, and Ferocious Leap, if you're running a MagDK or a StamDK, I think it's important to have a very expensive ultimate and then have a very cheap ultimate, and I would say Ferocious Leap is my cheaper ultimate at 128 ultimate. Also, I like Ferocious Leap. Let's say I haven't quite got to my Swarming Scion on my front bar, but I need to get an ultimate off. This shield on this Ferocious Leap is pretty juicy, and it's saved me before. So I'll actually buff up, get all my heals going, and then hit a Ferocious Leap, and the shield from this will protect my heals and get me back to full health. And it's going to return some resources, right? So keeps you in the fight. So if I'm in a crunch and being pressured, I'll go Ferocious Leap to try and get some stats back and try and turn the fight around. So on your back bar, I would say Elusive Mist is a flex spot, and if you didn't want to run Elusive Mist, you could either run Dragonfire Scale, like if you're running into sorcerers or casters a lot, right? Ranged casters or bow gankers or whatever it is, you could actually run Dragonfire Scales or the other morph to it, which gets rid of immobilizations and stuff like that. So that's one option you can do. Another option is Coagulating Blood. And there for a while I was running Coagulating Blood, but I don't know if it's a bug or what's going on right now, but it is too unreliable of a heal. I have BG footage of I was low on health and I literally hit this 6 times and it did nothing. So, and I was like, okay, done with that. You know, we are not going to use Coagulating blood again until I can confirm that it is actually working every time. So, I would rather run Elusive Mist that works half the time. And that's where we're at right now, having to choose between abilities that work part of the time. Anyways, I would say on your back bar, those would be the options that I would choose. I would either run Dragonfire Scale or Coagulating Blood when it is working properly. Okay. For this, so we looked at the abilities. Let's look at we're going to look at your passives. Just get all your passives, okay? And for your Destro, if you're going to run Destro, get all your passives, unless you're going to be running like a Frost Staff type build and something like that. You can figure that out. But and you can see right now I have all of the sword and board. If I want to switch this out and run the sword and board, I can. Resto, I'm still leveling my Resto on this, but anyways, we'll do that. Oh, another thing too, let's talk about this. You can actually, so let's say you make the change on this from choking talons to fossilize, you're running into like 1v1 type situations. Another really nice thing is elemental drain. So elemental drain is going to apply major breach to the target, which is great. So it strips them of some of their resistances, and it applies minor Magicka steal, basically equating to 600 magic recovery, right? Because if you read down there, it says restore 300 Magicka every 1 second. Your recoveries are based on 2 second. Okay, so this basically equates to 600 additional magic recovery if you find that it's a problem. I have not found that it's a problem with this particular build, so I really like it a lot. So, that is another option for you, Elemental Drain, and you can drop that right here, and just make sure you're running either Fossilize or Choking Talons for a CC, so that way you can get your second whip off, right? Um, so as far as armor goes, I have all of the light armor. Right now we are running 5 heavy, 2 light. Okay. So if you're running 5 heavy, 2 light, you only need the first 3 passives from light armor. Okay. Because the next one say when 5 armor, 5 light is or more is equipped, and you don't have that. And I'm running all of the heavy armor. I can tell you that if you wanted to run a light armor version of this, okay, what I would do is I'd run Elfbane on my chest, Elfbane on my legs, and then I would run Overwhelming on these other pieces, and then I would run light on Grofdar. And basically, because Elfbane is a heavy armor set, just make sure that at least 2 out of your 3 your big slots are going to be your helm, chest, or legs. At least 2 of those spots are heavy armor, right? So running Elfbane because it is a heavy armor set, and then just equip 2 light Grothdar pieces, okay? You could run that, and by running that, what you're going to gain is additional magic recovery, right, and additional magic cost reduction. You are going to get some other bonuses like some additional spell resistance, stuff like that, spell critical, and spell penetration. And so if you want the build to hit harder, or you're interested in dueling, I would say that a 2 heavy 5 light is probably the way you want to go. And you can run this exact same setup, just switch the armor pieces around to where you've got Elfbane on chest and legs, and everything else is overwhelming and Grothdar, and you're good to go. Okay, that extra penetration will help you. I think right now, because we are all heavy, you can see our penetrations on the low. Like I said, we're not really worried about that with the functionality of the build and the way I'm playing it right now. So, as far as Vampire, you are going to want some of these passives. You won't need, and I can come off of these. I was a level 4 not too long ago, but I won't need Undeath because this is only stage 3 or higher, and I won't need Unnatural Movement, which is a pretty cool ability. When you're sprinting, you go into like a mist form. That's cool, but not worth all the negatives that come from being a stage 4 vampire, to be honest. So, Simmering Frenzy is a pretty fun ability, and you guys should play around with that. There is a time and place for this where you could hit it, and you can see that it's costing you 1800 health every second. It looks like maintenance in 15 minutes. There you go. We got to get the build going, right? And so maybe play around with that. You're going to get a lot of extra spell damage from that. So if you want to add more pop to the build, there you go. Another thing that you can do, so if you are heavier onto the Thaumaturge side of things, you could actually run Entropy and then run Degeneration and switch Degeneration out with Molten Armaments. That's going to give you a pretty hefty dot. I've actually seen this get up to like 18 to 20k dot damage, Degeneration will, fully leveled. And so you could get a lot of damage by actually running that. So it's definitely worth looking into if you're going heavy into Thaumaturge. You're going to want to start to get your Mages Guild passives when you go that route too. I would definitely pick up your Undaunted passives as well, even if you're running a 5-2 setup, 5 heavy, 2 light, or 5 light, 2 heavy, or you're running a 5-1-1, whatever you decide. So Assault right now we are running Proxdet, and or we do have access to Proxdet. And I should say on my back bar, that is another thing that I've subbed Elusive Mist out for. I put Proxdet there, and so I'll trigger Proxdet, get all my buffs going, trigger Proxdet, and then I'll turn around and gap close into the group, and we will. Um, Jump into the group and see what type of damage we can do, right? So we're not super damage oriented, but I can tell you that 6k magic damage, and you can see the multiplier at the bottom. The bomb's radius increases. Each enemy within the bomb's radius increases the damage by 25%. And so in extreme to outnumbered situations, this can get much, much higher, right? And so that's been a fun play. You can also do the cannonball build, and the cannonball build is running. You would switch out one of your sets and basically just run mechanical acuity. You would trigger your Proxdet, and then you would leap into a group and then start triggering all your explosions. And the cannonball is a pretty fun like play style. But anyways, racial, we are a Nord, and I really like Nord for the physical and spell resistances, and we like it for stalwart. When you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This can occur every 10 seconds, and we have additional stamina from that. So, and we're immune to the chilled status effect, and that's really nice. So, anyways, you could run other classes, and maybe if you're into dueling or you want to pump out more damage, Nord isn't the way for you, but this is fit what I've been trying to do with this build right now, and we need resistances and we need to gain ultimate while we're swimming in the Zergs, and so I like that a lot. I can tell you that in 5 light 2 heavy, he hits hard. He definitely hits hard, even as a Nord. So to me, I don't think that the class changing to another class to try and pump out a little bit more damage is necessary. Being a Nord and running 5 light 2 heavy, you're still going to melt people's faces, right? As long as you know what you're doing. And so as far as Mundus right now, we're running the Atronach for additional magic recovery, and like I said, we're a stage 1 vampire, and we are running Bewitched Sugar Skulls for the max stats, and so that's nice. And the additional health recovery is really nice too. Just having a passive 900 coming in every 2 seconds, you can't really beat that. And so let's look at the stats buffed up here. And you can see our recoveries, magic recovery about 1800, health recovery, there you go. Spell resistance, 32,000 and 28,000, almost 29,000. We're on our destro bar right now. Our back bar is defending, so I will jump onto that real quick. When we jump onto our back bar, you can see we're over cap on spell resistance, and we're at 31,000 on our physical resistance. Like I said, we're trying to be a heavy armor tank, swim in the Zerg, disruptor, do damage, draw fire, and we do it all. We can do damage. Check the clips out here afterwards, and you can kind of see what we're talking about. Let's jump into the CP before maintenance starts here. And we got 49 points into Bless, so we have an additional 11% healing done. We've got 46 points into critical damage or Elfborn, so that way we do critical damage and our critical healing is increased by 20%. 57 points into Elemental Expert, so all of our flame damage is 12% higher. And Spell Erosion, we have an extra almost 2,700 penetration on this build right now. We really kind of needed that points there when you're running a heavy armor, so that way you don't hit completely like a wet noodle, right? Mastered Arms, we're running 56 in that, so we have an extra 20% on our direct damage. And like I said, we are more direct damage based on this particular build. And if you wanted to be more dot based, then you would want to take those points and put them into Thaumaturge and be a little bit more heavy on the dot damage. 56 points into Ironclad. That gives us an extra 20% damage mitigation against all the direct damage abilities in the game. So all the big attacks that are going to chunk off your life, that is the play. And then Spell Shield, I got 64 points into that, so it gives us an extra almost 4,600 spell resistance. This is why we are at cap or over cap, depending on if we're on our offensive or defensive bar. And that is really nice. We have additional spell resist or critical resistance, sorry, an extra 844 there, and nothing here. And that's where I change. I'm different than a lot of builds. I don't put points into Hardy. I don't put points into Elemental Defender because I don't really care about Unchained, and I'm not trying to build my CP around the moment when I need to break free from a CC. I'm trying to push max stats, max resistances, and so I accomplish that through running Spell Shield and through running Heavy Armor Focus. I have almost an extra 4,600 physical resistance here, and the fact that we're a Nord, we get another 4,000. That's over an 8,000 physical and spell resistance swing compared to other races, right? They don't have the Nord passives, rugged passive, and if you put your CP allotment differently and you go heavy into Hardy and Elemental Defender and not so much in Heavy Armor Focus and spell resistance, you're going to have way less resistances than this build. Quick recovery, we've got an extra 12% healing received by putting the 56 points in there. 40 points into Warlord. We are going to be CC'd and we will need to break free, so let's cut that a little bit. 46 points into Mooncalf for an extra 12% stamina recovery, and 64 points in Arcanus for an extra 13% in magic recovery. 49 points into Tenacity, so that way our long range poke returns a little bit extra Magicka for us. And then I've got 61 points into Shadow Ward to lower the cost of block by 21%. And this is really nice if you run sword and board as well. Like I could stay in the middle and hold block on my sword and board a lot longer, right? And so anyways, that's the CP allotment. We talked about the changes you can make, and like I said, stick around for the build, or stick around for the video here in a second so you can see us actually playing around. It's like 4 minutes of just kind of playing around inside a DC Zerg, and we can kind of go from there. Anyways, again, Grothdar, Elfbane, Overwhelming Surge, really fun combo, and I've tried a lot of different sets on my Magicka DK. This has felt the strongest out of everything that I've tried so far, and I'm really glad that I stumbled across it with some other content creators, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So thanks, and be safe out there.
attitude.